I think that my vision of childhood would involve, first of all, a sense of being, sense of belonging, a sense of essential acceptance, playfulness, creativity, being honored, being able to explore, being able to celebrate, being able to give an offering, whether it be play-based or exploratory-based or discovery-based, to an adult in their life, and for that adult to really respect that at that moment and honor that and praise that, and also at the same time just be engaged in a dialogue, or what sometimes I refer to as a reciprocal dance of engagement and playful awareness, and that translates into ever burgeoning growth and development. I think what's worth learning for a child, I think what's worth learning is that I belong here, and that every exploration or discovery or moment that I'm manipulating, whether it be Legos or Play-Doh or the sand table or pouring water, there are things happening in my body, and my whole sensory system is responding to this. I'm touching it, I'm feeling it, I'm integrating it into my being, into my core. And for teachers to realize that that is how young children learn. It's their sensorial system. And that I don't believe that you can really sort of dissect cognition and physical abilities and speech and language. There's the whole child that presents themselves to us. And of course there might be times in the duration of their growth and development where there might be an element where you say, oh, you know, maybe this is not on par for their particular milestone, but basically it's about embracing the entire child, that holistic approach. I believe that there are different ways to sort of address the word measure, and I believe in my heart that speaks to two different pieces. It speaks to the milestone piece, where as teachers it is our responsibility to really make sure, or not to necessarily make sure of, but to be respectful of and honor the developmental milestones that each child is achieving and the time that they typically should be achieving them. And I don't really like to use typical or should or whatever, but that's one piece. One piece of measuring childhood is looking at how their body is working in space, how their speech and language is developing, how their sensorial system is working. And if the need arises, to attend to supporting a measuring piece that isn't in a place where we feel a child can necessarily thrive to their full potential, that's one way of measuring the child. Then there's the piece of measuring their happiness, their joyfulness, their play, their presence in the classroom. We do have parent-teacher conferences 2 times a year. There's observations and recording every day, whether it be by taking photographs or actually taking notes. It depends on the sort of the pace or the feel of that particular day. But we are, as a teaching team in all the 4 classes that I work in, we are always very mindful of measuring the child in their state of growing and developing in the most safe, encouraging, and loving, respectful way. I think I would give teachers the advice to as simple as it sounds, to slow down, to not rush through studies, to not always think about the academic piece of, I have to write this paper by Friday, so I can't really be here right now. To encourage them to really embrace the wholeness of a child, that they present themselves, which I've said before, obviously, that with an incredible history and an incredible life experience, to also bring a piece of themselves into the picture, that I love this, maybe I can present this, whether it be music, whether it be dramatic arts, whether it be an art piece, explore different mediums, and always be mindful of being empathetic, of thinking about what it feels like to be in that child's skin or that parent's skin. Just that whole reflective piece that we all learn from each other. It's a reciprocal, it's a journey of reciprocity, like we're always moving back and forth, moving back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
There are several writers that inspire me and empower me, and it speaks to mindful teaching, it speaks to being here now, it speaks to how can I be more present, more mindful, more respectful, more honoring of the child in front of me, their life history, their personal experience, what they're presenting to me, what they're sharing with me, because I believe every moment brings something new, every moment has meaning, and I truly believe that that moment that you share with a child on that given day, it will never happen again, and child development goes so quickly, but at the same time it goes moment by moment by moment. So in any way that we can embrace and cherish that moment and engage in that, and again, I believe there's a sense of reciprocity, mutual respect, admiration, joy, playfulness, and also for myself as a professional, I'm pursuing my PhD in studies which mirror infancy and end-of-life care. And there's a real distinct parallel to what happens in the beginning of life and what happens at the end of life. And I think it's really important to sort of acknowledge that in terms of the separation piece, the separation attachment piece, and also the piece of the transitional object, which is so prevalent and so strong in the early childhood classroom, and also end-of-life care. That at the end of one's life, they need those transitional objects to be able to say goodbye. I think, for me, honestly, my mantra, which is like what I say to myself every day, is be the teacher you would want your son to have. As a single mom, I say that to myself every day. Mm-hmm. I look at the children and I see my son, and I remember when he was quite young and he would slow me down. I would pick him up from preschool and I would be thinking, let's go home, come on. And I would take his hand and like, we gotta go home. And he would just say, but I want to skip on the steps, or I want to hold on the handrail. He would just remind me to slow down, because he's never going to be 3 again. I'll never be 5 again. And that's so important to me. I would have to say, not only is it my son, but it's my colleagues, the teachers, the professors that I had when I was studying, the people that believe in me, my love of certain writers, authors, artists, who always sort of revisit and invite the magic of childhood. One of my most favorite books is actually called The Magical Child, and I always return to that book and revisit that book when I want to be mindful of and realize that it's a magical time. Childhood is so special, and I'm not sure how to really define excellence for myself, because I think sometimes the excelling part or the excellence part is perceived from people outside of me and not necessarily internal. But I do want to say that I am so honored that my director would even put me in that piece of even saying that I'm an excellent teacher. I'm so honored and so touched that she even did that. It's hard to articulate.